If God is loving and generous, why does so much suffering, violence, and evil exist in the world? This question has come to humanity in countless forms. It lives in scripture, philosophy, science, and in private moments of grief. It arises whenever something breaks, whenever someone is lost, whenever the world feels harsher than it should. It's an honest question because suffering is real. Bodies are injured, lives are taken. Trauma, fear, and loss are not metaphors. Any spiritual view that asks us to pretend otherwise, it is not wisdom, it's avoidance. So let's be clear about this from the beginning. Nothing in this reflection that's being shared here denies that suffering exists, that excuses violence, or asks you to see pain as good. Some experiences are genuinely unwanted, and acknowledging that truth is the starting point of integrity, not a failure of faith. Yet the question itself contains a hidden assumption. It's so common that we rarely notice that assumption. It assumes that love would remove contrast, that goodness would prevent harm, that a generous creator would design a world without friction. And beneath that is an even deeper assumption that the self who is suffering is only this body, only this personality, only this one lifetime. From that perspective, suffering feels catastrophic, unfair, completely overwhelming, and sometimes utterly meaningless. And from that level, the question makes perfect sense. But many metaphysical traditions, spiritual traditions throughout history, invite us to consider a larger identity. Not bodies that have consciousness, but consciousness that temporarily focuses into bodies. From the Homo Galacticus perspective, we are individuated, non-physical emanations of all that is, eternal and indestructible. The human experience is not the totality of who you are. It is a focused expression, a lens through which an eternal self experiences the illusions of limitation, time, and relationship. You exist, and therefore, at the deepest level, you cannot be destroyed or diminished in any way. And an infinite being has no edges. And without edges, without boundaries, there's no experience. There's no other to have an experience with. Identity requires difference. Preference requires contrast. Choice requires alternatives. This is the function of polarity, or sometimes referred to as contrast. Polarity is not good versus evil. It is integration versus separation. It's coherence versus fragmentation. It's connection versus isolation. Contrast is not a defect in creation, it's the engine of creation. One of many sources puts it this way: in the absence of that which you are not, that which you are is not. Without contrast, there's peace, but no meaning, no story, and no becoming. This understanding does not turn suffering into virtue. Violence is not spiritually justified. Pain is not a lesson imposed from above. Trauma is not a test you either failed or something you deserved. Suffering is allowed, not because it's preferred. Very crucial distinction that is often overlooked: the difference between allowing and preferring. So suffering is not allowed. It is not because it's preferred, but because removing the possibility of suffering would also remove many important things, such as moral agency, compassion, courage, forgiveness, and love freely chosen, among many, many other things. A world where harm is impossible is also a world where love is automatic and therefore meaningless. Another source describes contrast as the moment you encounter what you do not want. And in that very moment, a new desire is born. You don't have to ask deliberately. Life asks through you. Negative emotion is not punishment. It's guidance. A signal that something new is trying to emerge. Contrast clarifies preference. And preference creates momentum. And then momentum drives expansion, drives creation. Yet another source offers a simple, grounded way to work consciously with contrast without bypassing it by applying the 4 C's, which consist of calmness, confidence, curiosity, and creativity. Easy to remember, mnemonic. Calmness, not pretending everything is fine, but staying present with what is unwanted, allowing what is unwanted long enough for it to become information that you can use instead of overwhelm that has an emotional response. Calmness. Confidence, not confidence in a specific outcome, but confidence in this process, knowing what contrast, what polarity is there for, and that trusting that even when the meaning of it is not clear, the experience is not random, that the experience is not meaningless. Though what presents itself as objectively unwelcome, it is there to enable a positive end, to enable your creation. Confidence. Third C, curiosity. That then leads to asking better questions, like what distinction is this creating? What am I called to be in the presence of what is not? What does it show me I do not want? And what orientation becomes possible because of this contrast? Curiosity. And the 4th C, creativity. And with all of that, then you can choose a new response, choose a new boundary, new expanded boundary for yourself. Find a new way of being, not because the suffering was good, but because it clarified something essential you would not have been able to clarify otherwise without that contrast. Creativity. That's how polarity becomes lived rather than merely endured. Contrast gives birth to desire. Desire drives expansion, and polarity structures experience. You're not here to eliminate contrast. You're here to integrate it, to move from fragmentation towards coherence. You're not becoming polarized as a result of experiencing contrast. You're being given the opportunity to become whole. Suffering doesn't mean the universe is unloving. It means that love is meaningful, and meaning requires contrast. Contrast is not a failure of the path. It's how the path remembers itself. Because in the absence of that which you are not, that which you are is not.